Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, there is a saying, cutting off your nose to spite your face. And that seems to be what the SNP are about to do in the Western Isles. The current MP there is Angus MacNeil, of course, and he basically went off in a huff and then kind of semi-resigned from the party, and then they threw him out. And it's all very childlike, really. This is only a couple of months ago. But he is now technically an independent. He's been thrown out of the party. But he will stand, come the next election, he will stand as an independent in his constituency. And he'll probably do quite well. However, the SNP can't abide the fact that someone may disagree with them. And so rather than saying, look, okay, we're not going to put anyone up against Angus. He may not be our cup of tea. He may not be SNP anymore. But he does at least vote with us. And he does at least stand for independence. No, they're not going to do that because they can't be seen to allow someone to get away with what he's done. And so they are going to put up a candidate against him. And that, of course, will split the vote and allow Labour to win. So well done, SNP. A level of stupidity I didn't think even you could sink to. How very well done of you to prove me wrong. Let's have a look at the story, see what's going on. Right, now this was brought up because, of course, our old friend Fergus Ewing has basically said to the high command in their bunker that perhaps they shouldn't be putting anyone up against Angus because it will split the vote. And that will more or less guarantee a Labour win on the Western Isles. And the last thing they need is a complete routing. And yet it seems that is what they're determined to do. Because they just can't let it go. You know, they just can't let him go and just stand and carry on as an independent. They've got to have him beaten. Even if it means someone else beating him and they lose the seat entirely. Because that's how these people think. Anyway, SNP rebels get desperate amid plea to party not to stand in Angus MacNeil's seat. The Inverness and Nairn MSP Fergus Ewing has urged Humza Yousaf and his party to turn down the chance to stand in the Western Isles so that they don't split the independence vote and let Scottish Labour win. But of course they're going to do that because they are very, very stupid. The SNP rebels have gotten desperate amid a last gasp plea to stop the party from standing in the Western Isles. Fergus Ewing has urged the Nationalists not to attempt to win the seat of expelled Skexiteer Angus MacNeil, a wonderful human being. We've covered his misdemeanours many times before, but he is not someone I would wish to spend too much time in his company, put it that way. He was chucked out of Humza Yousaf's party after publicly shaming them for a failure to have a coherent independent strategy. And the irony is, of course, he went on to better things, and now they do have a coherent independent strategy. Oh no, the other thing. No, they don't at all, do they? I've got to say it, MacNeil was right. And those words are like ashes in my mouth. But anyway, he also refused to sit with his fellow Nationalist MPs in Westminster after serving an initial suspension for a public bust-up with the Chief Whip, Brendan O'Hara, the boot in a suit, whom he allegedly called a small wee man. Mr Ewing has been similarly a thorn in the side of the SNP's Holyrood contingent, repeatedly voting against them, and also clamouring to sack Lorna Slater from the government, for which everyone else is sort of very thankful. It's a one thing that really absolutely needs to happen. Only just not Lorna Slater on her own. All of the Greens need to be ousted and out of government. He was suspended for a week due to this, but he's currently appealing that ban, but he is back in the party, back with the whip. Anyway, now he's tried to ratchet up pressure on Mr Yousaf again by demanding that they not field a candidate in the Western Isles so they don't split the nationalist vote. But this was almost immediately rebuffed by the SNP, who confirmed they would be fielding someone in every part of the country. Mr Ewing claimed that it would allow Labour to win the hotly contested constituency if his party did announce a contender. He praised his old friend, who's currently sitting as an independent, but is not joining Alex Salmond's Alba Party, who've already defected, two defected MPs in Kenny McCaskill and Neil Hanvey. The Inverness and Nairn MSP said, if the SNP put up a candidate against Angus, it will merely assist the prospect of a Labour victory in the constituency by splitting the independents' vote. And of course that's no good. It's no good. That's no good to the SNP, but it is a good thing for the people of Scotland. The weaker the SNP are, the better their lives will be. He said it makes great sense politically, therefore, for the SNP not to put up a candidate. This is Fergus speaking, of course. He said, but instead fully to support Angus in his campaign. Anything less will be likely to cause damage to the cause of independence, a cause which is, of course, larger than the party itself. That is fighting words to the SNP, Fergus. You should know that. For them, there is nothing other than the party. He claimed that this could be the first step toward Mr Yousaf adopting a broad church approach to breaking up the UK and demonstrate on the part of our First Minister a generosity of spirit and magnanimity towards those who support independence but who are not in the SNP. Yes, but again, SNP exists to serve the SNP. They don't actually care about independence. Independence is merely the delivery tool for power, because ultimately it's power is all they're after. To prove his point, Mr Ewing cited the example of the party's stance on John Goodlad, who stood for the Orkney and Shetland movement in the constituency in 1987, with the SNP standing aside for him. Nationalist legend Winnie Ewing supported this move. He added, I understand that the UK general election candidate selection process is underway, and therefore I urge Humza as SNP president, I urge Humza and SNP President Mike Russell and the whole of the SNP NEC to be big enough to do what is right for Scotland and back our cause. What you've got to remember here is that they're not going to do this because they are very small-minded, petty-minded, arrogant, conceited fools who would rather lose the seat than allow Angus MacNeil any kind of victory, because Angus dared to stand against them, and that cannot stand, that cannot be stomached. A spokesperson for the SNP said, as with all elections, the SLP will be standing candidates in all Scottish constituencies in the upcoming general election. I'm surprised they can afford it. At the next general election, voting SNP is the only way to stand up for Scotland, secure real help with the cost of living, and offer people the chance to build a better future as an independent country. And if you believe that, I have a camper van to sell you. What a load of old rubbish. They've had 17 years in power, and look how bad it is. Voting for the SNP is voting for more of the same, only worse. They'll just water down the already thin gruel. It's not a good choice. Anyway, I'm going to round there. I'm going to come up and we'll just laugh at these people for doing the most stupid of things repeatedly. Odd, isn't it? Anyway, coming up. It's their own lookout, of course. If they want to lose the seat, they're going around the right way of doing it. And when they do, and Labour get in, and it's a massive routing, and they're sitting down there at Westminster, and who knows, with maybe 6 seats, because the wise people of Scotland have done a bit of tactical voting and seen who's second in the SNP seats, and regardless of their own affiliations, have voted for the second place, simply to get the SNP out. They'll be sitting there thinking, do you know what? It was a really stupid idea, wasn't it? It's far too late by then, of course, and then the bills start arriving, and you're not getting all that lovely Westminster money to pay them. Oh dear. Next thing, the man comes to lock the building out and take all your assets away, to sell them, to raise money to pay your bills. And you're wound up at the High Court, and the SNP ceases to be. All because they're led by morons. Wonderful, isn't it? We can but hope. Might happen. Who knows? Anyway, we'll keep an eye on that. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and remember, they're all liars, as you're about to find out again in the next video. Bye.